We are here to do a tier list based off of some rumors that have been circulating in the Star Rail community, where um, there's been a lot of speculation about potential future about older characters getting potential future versions, kind of like what just happened to Dan, how we have the new Dan version down here. So what this ranking is based off of is purely based off of how much potential, based off of the character's story, their like positioning in the world, and how much of the character we've seen for them to have future reruns, or at least soon future, or not reruns, but soon future versions. So like, not like saying, if the game lasts another 10 years, will we ever see this? But how likely do I think, or not how likely, but how good do I think a potential character would feel to see a rerun based off of who they are and where their story could go? And what they have in terms of game potential that we have not yet seen. So that's kind of where this is going. Um, if there's multiple of the same character, I'm gonna just put them next to each other in the tier list. This seems weird because March is literally just got a new version in Smarch. But I actually do think there is more potential in her story for her, because they don't seem to have closed the door on her story. So I think there's still potential for something to happen with her in the not too distant future. Maybe not next year, but in like a year or two. One second, guys. I love the music. This song is so good. Yeah, I could see something like that. Yeah, there's that, or even just like if the next step of the story leads us deeper into going into conflict against the Remembrance, I could very easily see March awakening, like March having March merges with Smarch. The two forms kind of actually fully embrace each other, and she gets like a true form as part of it. That's a fairly common trope when characters have this like hidden part of them, like March does, where the idea that like once the two accept each other fully, they unlock their true power or something like that. And I could see that happening with March. I would be surprised if it happened in the next year, but I would not be surprised if it happened like in maybe 2.5, 3 years. Dan, I think, has low potential. We already have three Dans, and I don't think they're going to give us a fourth Dan in the near future. I do think, though, that there is potential in there, but I think they've kind of. Like, I don't think he's a no potential character. I do think there's some, but I think it's a much more distant thing. I think with this story, they did such a good job of kind of exploring his history and his past and having him come to terms with his past that I would just be surprised if they thought there was more fertile ground for that immediately, like even within the next couple years. So that one would surprise me. Oh, and I should just briefly explain my no potential category. While I think it's 100% guaranteed we will get a new path for Trailblazer, I do not think they will ever release a new Trailblazer unit as a pullable character. And I don't think we'll ever see the collab units again once the collabs end. I think they will be 100% gone and never be seen again. I do not think there's any chance of them ever getting another collab with the same IP and doing the same characters in new versions. I think it's zero. Basically, every other character is going to have at least some. Maybe I'll add another character here, add another row below that is like very low potential. This is where I'm going to put characters like Arlen, who, like, I wouldn't say it's none. I wouldn't say I wouldn't put money on never seeing them again, but I would say it's a long shot that Arlen would ever get a. Arlen's now a strong character. Asta, I think Asta has a little bit more potential because she seems to be a fairly important person in like the universe standings. Her family is rich and wealthy. They're members of the IPC, and the IPC we will certainly see again. Herta Space Station is an important place. She is the lead of Herta Space Station other than Herta herself. Like, she is second under Herta. I think it's fairly low. But I wouldn't say it's zero. I wouldn't say it's like extremely low. I wouldn't say it's like Arlen, where I would be shocked if it ever happened. If they ever did a new Asta, I would be not terribly surprised, but if it happens soon, I would be a little surprised. Herta. So Herta's a weird one. I don't want to rule out any of the geniuses. The story has gotten so involved with them that I could reasonably see any of the geniuses having more involvement and new layers to uncover. I think Herta is one of the lower on that scale because we just got her like real form at the start of this cycle. So I don't think it's great potential, but I would not be surprised if it happened. And it would make sense to me because the geniuses are, one, they're such an important story element. In almost every story, they have played a big role. So I could see it. And two, they treat them like they are incredible forces for within the universe. That, like, they are one of the big driving factors behind everything. So the idea that there's a third version of Herta, or even a second version of real Herta, would be no surprise to me at all. What would surprise me is if it was so soon after her original one, or after her her release here. Hook. I'm gonna put Clara here as well, and I'm gonna put Lynx here as well. I'm gonna put Hua here as well. I think any of the characters. Oh, and Bilo. Actually, Bilo, I'm gonna put a little bit individual separately. Pella as well. Any of the characters that are actual children or practically children, I would never rule out the possibility of a time skip and them getting a new version where they're an adult. But I think all of these characters here, we're fairly unlikely to see anytime soon. They don't really have, except maybe Huahua a little bit. I don't see any way you could make them relevant to the world, to the universe story that seems to be building. I feel like it would be a stretch and it would be very difficult, so I don't see it happening. As much as I like Natasha, I'm putting her in the no potential category. I think her story's done. I think she's a good character. I think she served her purpose, but I don't see them doing another Natasha. I think her story is completely done. Qingchui? Xianzhou's getting involved again. Qingchui is one of those characters that everyone likes. She, as much as she's a bit of a meme, she's actually a pretty, like, story-relevant character for the Xianzhou. So, like, the idea that she could get, like, that they could have a storyline where, like, Fu steps down and she takes over Fu's role and gets a new version where she's a little bit more mature and more powerful, or where she takes a center stage in some operation. Yeah, like, there is potential in there. The fact that she is constantly running off. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The fact that she is constantly running off and slacking off, but is still there, tells me she's doing something right. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with it too. Like, and with the Xianzhou coming into the story, again, I could very easily see a world where, like, a joint Xianzhou operation is led by, like, Qing Chui, Yun Li, and, like, overseen by Jing Yuan or something like that. That would be really cool, yeah. But, like, I could see a world where, like, you know, there's an operation that needs to involve members of all of the different uh disciplines, and that we tap a lot of these, like, kind of secondary characters within the Xianzhou to be that. Like, I could see Sushong being in the same situation. I could see, I'm just gonna take her and put her here, whereas Yun Li in the same situation. I could see Moza being in the same situation. Like, all of them are in that same boat where, like, I could see a world where Hoyo decides we want a group of Xianzhou characters to take the center stage for a storyline that's taking place, but we don't want it to be the A-listers. Or we want it to be mostly these younger characters led by one older character. And thus, I could see any of those characters having pretty good potential to get a revisit because of that. I'm just going to say it. I think Sampo is 100% getting a new version. I do not even think there is a question about Sampo getting a new version. I don't think it's even... I don't even think it's... I wouldn't even be surprised if he was one of the next 1 to 2 characters to get a new version. I don't like it because I hate Sampo as a character, but I think it's a guarantee. They keep bringing him back into the story in small ways. So clearly they like him. They keep using him in events even when there's no reason for him to be a part of those events. So clearly they like him. I think the writers really like... Yeah, I think the writers really like Sampo. And I think we're gonna see the Masked Fools take center stage soon. I think there's a reason we got a heavily Masked Fools centric event right now. And I think that reason is that the Masked Fools are going to be major players in the next event, which to that effect, I also think Sparkle is guaranteed to get a new version. I don't think I think it's 100%. I don't even think it's like maybe. I think they are absolutely getting new versions at some point. And I would be shocked if it didn't happen soon. To continue with Sparkle specifically, Sparkle is very clearly an emanator. Like, Sparkle is very clearly like Aha's right hand woman. So if Sparkle didn't take center stage in an upcoming story at some point and get a new version as a result, I would be shocked. I also think the new version of Sparkle is going to be a carry when it happens, but that's a discussion for a later day once we have it confirmed. But yeah, I think Sparkle and Sampo are guaranteed. I don't think it's. There's a part of me that wants to put Serval next to Natasha, but I actually think Serval has a little bit better potential than Natasha does because Serval has Wanderlust in her heart. So there is a world where I could see the devs deciding, Serval wants to leave Belobog, or Belobog is entering. Like, there's a chance that some of the previous stories have implied that Belobog might not be staying on the sidelines forever. That they might be they might be like taking a role in the universe as things go on. And of the Belobog characters, the characters that I could see being the most likely to be involved in on a universe scale as opposed to a planet level scale for something from Belobog. I think Serval is one of the ones that has a better likelihood. I might actually put Serval up here even now that I'm talking myself into a little bit more. I could see Serval. I could see it happening. Like, I could very easily see a world where Serval was also a very popular character. A lot of people were upset when she didn't join the Astral Express when the story bait and switched us. Um, yeah, no, I could see Serval. I think it's a little bit higher. I think Tingyun has good potential. I know we just got Tingyun, but there's no way that Tingyun does not come back into the story again in the future. And if it happens, I could see a third unit. Maybe I'll pop her in good potential, or in decent potential, not good potential. Because I could see them being content with the version we have here for that. But I could also see them doing another Tingyun version. She's coming back to the story 100% at some point. The only question is when. Bailu? This might be a controversial take, but I think Bailu has really good potential for being a future character. She's got a very important role in the Cienjo, similar to the other Cienjo characters we mentioned. She's a character that has been in the story a number of times. She has a very strong connection to the Astral Express through Dan. Um, she's another one of those characters as a child character who there's always the potential for them to get revisited. I think Bailu is one of the characters that has a better chance of getting another run. Yeah, there's also story potential for her to kind of come into her own and yeah, for her to come into her own and kind of age up and kind of take some of her power back, I guess, to fully take on the mantle of what she's supposed to be. Welcome, number one Cypher fan. Um, Not to get too ahead of myself, but I don't think Cypher's going to rank very highly on this tier list specifically, as much as I do like Cypher a lot. But we'll get to her later. Japard, Japard and Bronya, I think, are both fairly low potential. I I could see it. I'm not going to put them in the very low potential category because I don't think they have the same problem as Natasha and Arlen has, where there's just not really much story for them. I think there is still potential for their story to progress, but I think they're too tied to Bellabog. And I think that's why I think that there's low potential for them to get new versions. Bronya, I think, slightly higher than Japard because she's a more popular character. But in both cases, I think the problem is they're too tied to a place that we have no reason to go to. They could force a reason for us to go to, and if we did get another Bellabog story in the future, I would bump them up to to Bronya being almost guaranteed and Japard being likely. But I just don't see us getting another Bellabog story for a long time. I think Himiko is right up at the top as almost guaranteed as to get a new version at some point soon. She's one of the most popular characters in the game. She is absolutely central to the story. She is very clearly more than we know. There is definitely more potential for her character to do something. And I think she even mentioned that, like, in the next Trailblaze expedition, she wants to actually be involved. Like, she doesn't want to sit in the sidelines again. Um, Similarly, Welt is in the same tier. I think Welt might actually be like even a higher step higher because we know how much backstory he has from the other game. Um, but yeah, I think Welt and Himiko are shoe-ins for getting new versions at some point. I think Himiko will probably come first because she's a more popular character, but I think both of them will happen in not too long. I'm gonna put Yanqing next to Bailu for similar reasons. I think Yanqing has a lot of potential for the story to go his way to be a new version for him. He's supposed to be incredibly strong, but the version of him we have isn't. He's a central character to the story. He wants to take on more responsibility, and he's fairly closely connected to the Astral Express through March. Um, I think that's a pretty there's a pretty good chance of that one. Um, but it is break time, so I'm gonna swap to a break screen now. We're gonna play some words, and we'll finish this tier list when I get back. Back to the tier list here. Uh, this one kind of makes me a little bit sad, but I think Zeal is probably in the same category as Bronya. I love Zila. I would love to see more of her. I wish she. And I think similarly, if we got another Bellabog story, that would bump her up to like right up at the top because I think she is a very popular character, and I could see that being an angle they used, but I just don't see it anytime soon. Jing Yuan is up near the top here. I think Jing Yuan is one of maybe my top 5 characters that I would expect a rerun from. Although I don't know if he would be like the first one I would expect. Um, Jing Yuan just has so much more to him that we haven't seen. He's an emanator of the hunt, and all we have is this erudition version of him. So we've only seen him as in his role as general, not in his role as hunter. And I think it would be really cool to get a version of him that is him unleashed. And I also think that with the Xianzhou story being Xianzhou kind of returning into the storyline with the mentions of Jing Yuan and everything in the trailers and stuff, that I could very easily see a world where they decide Jing Yuan has to take on a new role. So I think Jingyuan is um, on the same boat. I think. Where's the last one? Where's my favorite? There you are. I think the Stellaron Hunters are also guaranteed to get new versions. The only question is when. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I think they're just too central to the future story that if they did not get a another version, it would be absolutely shocking. And given that the trailer without at the special program, they showed off a video of Kafka watching what's happening in Amphorius, I feel like we're going to see the Stellaron Hunters again fairly soon. And I would lay odds on any or all of them getting new versions. I would be. I just hope that when Firefly gets her new version, whatever it is, I hope that when Firefly gets her new version, it's Firefly, not Sam. I would wail for Firefly. I would work overtime and wail for Firefly. I would find a way to wail for Firefly if we got an actual Firefly unit. If it's just another Sam unit, then I'll probably try and pull, but I won't be as excited. But any of these characters, I think Silverwolf would be if I had to put them in order of how how likely I think they are to get additional versions, I think I would put Silverwolf first, then Kafka, Firefly, Blade. Although Silverwolf and Kafka, I think, are pretty much paired. I think they're like equal in that regard because the two of them are the ones who had the original connection to waking us up. So I think they would be first. I think they would be the ones who would make the most sense for the first potential there. I think I like her a lot. I can't remember her name now that I'm saying that. Yukong, that's it. Um, I like her a lot, but I think her story's done. I think it would be more likely to see her daughter get a unique appearance and become a playable character, than it would be to see her get another one. Like, I think that if they were to expand on her story, it would be her daughter taking center stage, not giving her another version. Lacha, I think Lacha has good potential, has pretty good potential here, but not yet. I think Lacha's a little bit further out. Um, but I do think he still has good potential. I would not be at all surprised if it happened. There's more to his story than we've seen, and he bears strong resemblance to a character from HI3, so they're not abandoning him. I don't think. Also, his the story of his trying to kill the abundance or whatever I think it was is not done. They still have not fully like closed the book on like his trial or his sentencing. Same goes for Jinglu. Um, I think I'm not his biggest fan either, but on a similar vein, I would say Luca is another one of the Belobog characters that I would put the tiniest mark higher in terms of the likelihood of seeing them again. Because I could see, especially given the fact that he already had the storyline where he left Belobog to try and go and get help for Belobog, or to try and go and no, to try and understand his to respond to the invitation. He's already proven he's willing to leave Belobog, so him being given the chance to leave it again as part of a story would not surprise me. Tier list getting big here. Fu. I actually think I'm going to move Ching Chui up here to the good potential category. I think along the same lines as Ching Chui, I think Fu also has very good potential. She is a fairly popular character. When she was a fairly popular character when she came out, she's fallen off really badly. She is a Cienjo leader. She is still fairly young, and she has aspirations to be more. She is an adult. I'm not saying she's like a child, but she's not like at the end of her life. She's still in the prime of her life, so there's very easy case to be made for her seeing, as Alora was saying earlier, like Jing Yuan steps into a different role, Fu becomes a general, and then gets a new version as part of that, or something like that. Um, very, very believable. I think Jing Lu is slightly lower because I think Jing Lu's story is mostly done. Even though she's in the same kind of vein as um, Jing Yuan, I think she has mostly kind of. I don't think she's in the very low potential category because I do think that she's a popular enough character I could see it happening. Um, and I think she will have a role to play in the same story that Lotcha will have a role to play in. But I think it's more likely for them to just be like, no, she is done. Her story is complete. We are content. We're just gonna have her be present in the story and do some things, not be revisited as part of the story. Gwenithan is one where I have mixed opinions of. Like, I am almost certain we will see her again. I would be very much surprised if we never saw Gwenithan again. But I would also at the same time be a little surprised if they decided to like make her a 5-star and give her a full visit. She just seems more like a silly character that they use when they need a personality for something, as opposed to an actual character that is meant to be like expanded on. I feel like she's kind of stuck. Topaz, I hate most of the IPC characters, but I think Topaz does have more potential. Aventurine during the Penacony story showed the power of the Stonehearts, and we haven't seen Topaz show hers yet. And the IPC are big enough players in the universe story that I would be shocked if we didn't see more of them, as much as I hate them. And I think Topaz is, of the IPC characters, the one I think has the most unexplored potential. I think Jade is in a fairly similar situation, but we'll get to her later. Um, I would be shocked if we did not at some point get a Stoneheart Topaz or something like that. Um, I think Hanya and her name starts with an X, but I cannot remember what it is. Shui Yi. Yes, thank you. I think Hanya and Shui Yi are done. I think we will probably have them appear in the story again when we visit Cienjo, but I think their story is done. They are characters who. Actually, I'll put Hanya a tiny bit higher. I think Shui Yi's story is where it is. She is where she is, and she will stay there. I think there's a possibility for like a Shui Yi, uh, a post Shui Yi Hanya, where she has to come to terms if Hanya's ever unable to be rebuilt or ever like permanently dies. I could see a world where a Hanya getting kind of moving past that and becoming a new character. I think both of these are among the lower chances of happening, but it's not impossible. Argenti's going to sit right in the middle. I could see them doing nothing with Argenti ever again. I could see them doing a brand new version of Argenti every 2 years. I could see anything. Like, Argenti is such a wild card in terms of the story that it's hard to know what they have planned. But I wouldn't put anything past them. Ruan May. So I think Ruan May is almost guaranteed to eventually get it. I just don't think it's going to be in the next year or two. So I'm going to put her in the good potential rather than the amazing potential. But I think there is like, if this game lasts another 4 years, I think there's a 0% chance we don't get a Ruin May new version. I could see it being in the next 2 years. I could see it being a little further out. But I would bank on it happening within the next four. I don't think it's going to be part of the next story, though. So I'm going to put her in the good potential because I think it's a very, very, very likely thing to happen, but not in the amazing potential because these are all characters that I could very easily see them doing in the next year or 2 years. Dr. Ratio, I'm going to put next to Argenti, and for largely the same reasons. Dr. Ratio is a character they keep revisiting, that they keep mentioning and bringing up, and is perpetually on the sidelines of importance. So I could see them being content to leave him as he is for that role, but I could also see them being very interested in giving a new version of him to really kind of stretch that out, to kind of really, play up the fact that he's important. Next on the list, we have Gallagher and what was his in-game name? Misha. Misha, that's it. Next, we have Gallagher and Misha, and they're done. They have been written out of the story already. We are never seeing them again. We may see flashbacks to them. We may see memories of them. We may see references to them. I really appreciated the scene in the one. Was it in the anniversary event or something where they? No, in the collab event where they had uh, Misha get the chance to talk to the conductor. Like, that was cool, and I would love to see the occasional references to them again. But we're never getting another version of them. Black Swan is one I'm torn on because I think there's a very real case for Black Swan to get a new version. But the fact that it hasn't happened during Amphorius makes me question if there's the will in the dev team to do it. Like, do they if they wanted to give Black Swan another version during Amphorius, during these last 3 chapters of Amphorius, would have been a very logical time to do it. And if they did not write that into their script, I don't know when they're going to ever get a better chance for it. But at the same time, the Remembrance as a group are clearly not our allies in whole. That's where Alora's going exactly where I was about to go. The Garden of Remembrance, the Remembrance as a whole, has not yet had their story finished, and they are clearly not entirely on our side. But Black Swan is on our side. Black Swan is very clearly on our side, very decidedly on our side. So in a future storyline, as Alora is so intelligently saying in chat, in a future storyline where the Garden of Remembrance and the Remembrance as a whole once again prove themselves to not be on our side, the idea of of Black Swan returning to center stage and taking that in is the reason why I still put her in decent potential. I think she has a decent chance of it happening. It's just weird to me that like a character with as much potential for it to happen as her didn't have it happen at this perfect opportunity for it to have happened. But I still think it's a near shoe in. I still think it's a like it would be a very logical decision for them to do, especially if they decide to do another remembrance story. Acheron, I'm gonna put Acheron kind of in the same category. Like Acheron, as is, we've seen her potential. We know what she's capable of. There's it doesn't feel like there's a place for her to go from where she is. But she is also an extremely popular character who could easily become a part of any storyline that Hoyo chooses to tell. It would be super easy to write her into any story. She wanders the universe seeking like with her own goals in mind. It's very easy to write her into any story. But like this is her emanator form. What else could they do with her? Unless they like have her separate from the remembrance and become or from the nihility and become like a hunt character or something. Like if she loses her connection to the nihility, that could be a way to do it. Maybe a redeemed Acheron. But like I feel like they really did her justice in the form she has. So I would be surprised to some extent if they chose to do another one. But on the same note, she's such a popular character and she's so easy to write into any story. And there's a lot of stories that could involve her that haven't been told yet, given that we know she's connected to a lot of things. So like Acheron is another one of those characters where like I don't want to write her out, but I also wouldn't necessarily expect it. So she's gonna kind of go in the middle because like I think there's the potential for her to appear in the story and for them to want to monetize her again. But at the same time, I'm not sure how to kind of write her further in being a more powerful version of her. It's kind of weird on that one. Aventurine, this is kind of a weird one for me because I feel like he's gonna get one, but I don't think there's actually the potential for it to happen in a logical, organic way. We've already seen the current Aventurine throw all his cards on the table. In a similar boat to Acheron, like I don't think there's anything left for them to do with him. But I feel like they're going to because similar to Sampo, someone on the dev team likes the asshole, and I don't know why. I don't get it, but like I feel like they've done his story. We've gotten his backstory. We've gotten his. He had his moment to shine. He and like he already showed us his Stoneheart version. Like that's the boss of him, and like we've already seen him. So like, but yeah, I think they're gonna do some sort of a like he comes back with a vengeance type thing. Oh, there's two more Trailblazers here. Robin, I think Robin's a yes. I think Robin will get another version. I don't think it's a. I think it's. She's clearly more powerful than she lets on. Like, she's clearly more connected to the Eon than she lets on. She is like, she might be the most powerful emanator of the harmony in the universe, and the idea that she is not going to get a full emanator version seems weird to me. Although she's so powerful that, like, who knows? Like, her current unit version is so powerful that, like, maybe they're content with that. So maybe I'll put her just in good. But I think Robin is a very strong contender for a new version. I think Boot Hill is also a very strong contender for a new version. Boot Hill has all the same benefits of Acheron, where they can very easily write him into any story. Except with Boot Hill, there's still more potential for him to show a new facet of himself. There's more potential for him to be a changed version of himself. Um, so I think there's a pretty do it. I think I'll put him in decent. I'll put him next to Acheron. I think he's slightly higher chance than Acheron, but at the same time, he's not as popular of a character. So like, there's a bit of a loss point there. Um, but I think it's very likely we see Boot Hill again multiple times. And I would not be at all surprised if one of those times included a new version. I think similar to Topaz, I think Jade is also in that same category where we haven't seen her do anything. Like, we haven't seen her do anything. We've seen her engaged in negotiations and talks and stuff, but she's a Stoneheart, so she's as powerful as Aventurine. And we saw what Aventurine could do in his full form. So, like, Jade has more to show us. As much as I don't like the IPC characters, I think it's almost guaranteed at some point that we get a new Jade. And I think we've gone most of a full cycle without seeing the IPC. Thank God. So I think they're going to take a center stage in either the next storyline or in either the what is it, the 4.0 patch series or the 5.0 patch series, one of the two. Like, within either the next year or the year after that, she will take, like, the IPC will become an important player again. And I feel like Jade is very likely to get a new version when that happens. Oh, right, there's a third March. Jiao Chu, I'm going to put him in very low potential. I don't think we see him much. I think we see him a few times, but I don't think he gets another version. Fei Zhao, I'm going to put Fei Zhao next to Aventurine because I think a lot of the same points apply to him as apply to her, where, like, she's shown us what she can do. We've seen her. We know who she is. We know what she's capable of. And the version we got relatively well reflects that. She's not like she's not like Jingyuan where, like, there's an entire another side of her we haven't seen, and we know that she's capable of more, and there's a big facet. I think she is in the category. Actually, I think I'll put her next to, like, Boot Hill and Acheron. I think she fits in the exact same spot as them, where, like, I think we'll see her again. I think we'll see her again a bunch, but I don't know that she is one of the most likely candidates for getting another re-release. But she's also a very popular character, so popular character plus likely to be in the story again, that does bump up the odds of getting a new version pretty highly. Lingsha, I want to put Lingsha in the decent potential, but I think she's in the low potential. Like, there's definitely more to her than we've seen. And she is a member of the Xianzhou, but I also don't think they're going to use her again for much. I don't think she has like a strong place for her to be. I think like any role that she would fill would be far more likely to be given to Bailu instead of her. So I think I'm going to put her in the low potential there. But I like her a lot, so I would love to see it. Uh, Rappa, I think I'm going to put Rappa right next to Argenti as well. Because, and Boot Hill. Yeah, Rappa, Argenti, Boot Hill, Dr. Ratio also have a lot of the same bits going on. Rappa is a character that like I could see us seeing again. I would be shocked if didn't appear in some fashion or another. And if they decide to do it, I could see them deciding to give her another version. But I also would not be at all surprised if they were like, no, it's not worth it. She's she's fine as she is. I also think that her story is like we got enough of her story to kind of know who she is. So I don't know that unless they really go all in on it, it would make a ton of sense. But she is that wacky type of character that you can never really count out as being a possibility. Sunday, I think, is also a shoe in. I think Sunday. I think the reason they had Sunday travel with us was so that they could eventually give him another version in a storyline a year or two down the line after he's been with us and involved in a few events. Do I think he's as likely as the Celeron Hunters and Jingyuan? No. But I think he's like the. If I were to order this list, he would be the number one on this list. Another batch of Trailblazers? Do we really? We do. We do have 4 Trailblazers. That is correct. Okay. And now we get to the unfortunate reality. Every single Amphorius character except Cyrene, I'm putting in the very low potential category. I think the Amphorius characters are bound to Amphorius. I think once we leave Amphorius, we will never see them again except in like Bellabog Museum style events where like we go back to Amphorius to revisit them. I don't think we'll ever see them again. The one exception I could maybe see is Cyrene. And the reason I put her as a slight exception is because she is so bound to the Trailblazer that I could see her not having the option to stay behind and her being kind of stuck to the Trailblazer. I still think it's at the. In fact, I still think she's in the very low potential. But I think of the very low potential characters, she's the one I'd be surprised the least to see happen. But I think the rest of these, they're done. Once we leave Amphorius, we're never seeing them again in the main story. I think they're bound to Amphorius, and I think Amphorius' story is not going to leave it a lot of room for them to leave. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Amphorius ending will end with like happy ever after, everything's fine, it's now a normal planet, and everyone can leave and go wherever they want. And maybe I'm wrong. But I just think that the Amphorius characters are Amphorius characters, and they're gonna stay there, and that's that.